I hit that setting. All right, we are recording. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. I think we have about 20 people here on the line thus far. And so I'll just recap since I looked at the participant list and I know some of you attended the Opportunity Zones 101 meeting that happened in May. And for others, this may be just to know that we'll have people kind of different levels of exposure to what opportunity zones and opportunity funds are on this call, and that's all right. If you didn't happen to make it to that Opportunity Zones 101 event, just know that there's a blog post that summarizes it, which we included in the email reminder for this event that we sent out this morning. So feel free to brush up on that afterwards as things breeze by, and if it feels like it would be helpful to go back to some of the key concepts, we're happy to refer you there. I'll just mention that in terms of the content that we hope to cover today, we will primarily not discuss, what are opportunity zones and opportunity funds, because the purpose of this meeting is really to focus in on OppSites, which is a platform we'll introduce in a moment. But if you do have questions as we go, there's a mechanism for that. If you hover your mouse over your screen, there should be a menu bar that comes up in the lower middle. And one of the options for that is to view chat. And the preference that we would have is that you chat to everyone, just so we can see, what types of questions are coming in and how frequently they're coming in, so that we can batch them if needed or detect some key themes. And we'll have time for some Q&A as we go. So if anyone happens to be tweeting today, we are using this hashtag NorCalOppZones. So if you are a Twitterific person out there, just know that we welcome you to tweet this, and we'll also share the recording afterwards for any folks who weren't able to join us. So Opportunity Zones, big picture, there are 8,700 census tracts across the country that have been designated as Opportunity Zones. And many of them are in California, 879 of them. By design, they're in low-income communities. So this is a mechanism that was determined through the tax reform process to incentivize investment in low-income communities. And at the moment, we're at this stage where there's a lot of capital just kind of sitting on the sidelines and beginning to be deployed. So Novogradac, who's one of the kind of accountancy firms that's leading the analysis of this space, they've already identified almost 130 opportunity funds which can invest in designated zones. And were all of that capital to be deployed, that would represent more than $28 billion in community development investment capacity. And that's just so far. So this is a mechanism that's really designed to have a lifespan of 10 plus years to obtain the maximum benefit. And this is just the capital that's starting to come to the sidelines or initially get deployed up to this point. I want to be sure to name that for anybody who's been around the block a few times, this opportunity zone designation process may be sounding familiar. So you can think of mechanisms in the past like enterprise zones, promise zones, empowerment zones. This is certainly not the first mechanism which is intending to deliver investment into low-income communities. And for some of us on the call, we may be aware of some of the really mixed history of some of those programs where there have been success stories, but also instances where deploying that capital has been less than positive for communities, where it's actually led to inequitable development. So there's a long history with some of these, and we invite everybody to bring your kind of institutional memory around that to the table. So that brings me to, why is the McConnell Foundation interested in that? I think we only have one person who registered who's not from the North State. I think maybe someone from Santa Cruz. So hello, Santa Cruz, whoever you are. Thanks for joining us, City of Santa Cruz. We at the McConnell Foundation, just a quick context, we're based in Redding. For the past 30 years, have been operating as a private, independent philanthropic organization. And we have a broad mission, helping build better communities through philanthropy. 2 years ago, our board directed staff to begin a new program which is focused on community vitality and specifically on downtown Reading revitalization. So this was before downtown Reading has a designated opportunity zone census tract when this process happened. And it's really a 10-year commitment on behalf of the foundation, both for grant making and also investments in that space in the downtown area. But bigger picture, the McCollum Foundation also serves 5 counties across the North State. So we're based here in Shasta County, but we also serve Siskiyou, Trinity, Tehama, and Modoc counties. And I can say at the Opportunity Zones 101 event, we had a pretty substantial representation from Siskiyou County as well as Shasta County, a couple of outliers from some of the other counties that we serve, and then a fairly substantial presence from Chico as well. So another North State community that's experiencing a lot of rapid change right now. So we're interested really big picture in education and awareness raising around opportunity zones. We find that sometimes in places like Reading, like the North State, these federal programs happen and we may not have a lot of attachment to that process of how the incentive structures come to be. And so we have an opportunity here to become familiar with them so we can think together about how to potentially lean in to some of this potential investment, and then also how to anticipate some of the unintended consequences so that 5 years from now, we don't find ourselves in a situation where there's a lot of outside investment and we don't even know where is this coming from? What is this? So we really are intent on coming up to speed on that. We're noting also in the process of this that, of course, opportunity zone designated communities may or may not ever see funding from this process. So there's no guarantee that opportunity fund investment will come to a particular zone. So part of the task right now is understanding, well, what's happening in different parts of the country, what's happening in different parts of California, so that we can kind of look for those signals, those indicators of change that are coming our way. So I mentioned that the downtown Reading, one of the downtown Reading census tracts has been designated. So this slide is pulled from Enterprise Community Partners, who created a set of reports about every single census tract that's been designated. So you can go to Enterprise Community Partners and their Opportunity 360 platform if you're more interested in this or studying up on any particular zone. But I wanted to show this image just to indicate, some of the real estate and potential business investment territory in the downtown Reading census tract specifically. So if I know some of you on the call, I see Deborah Lucero, for instance, from Shasta County Arts Council. So your home in downtown is in this designated zone. And so we know that there are property owners on this webinar, CPAs, accountants, some financial service professionals, a couple of potential investors, and a lot of people who, like me, are just interested in what is this and how could it impact the downtown Reading area or wherever your focus is. And I mentioned it's not just downtown Reading that's relevant to the McCollum Foundation's work. So here in this map, you can see the 5 counties that we're focused on, Shasta, Siskiyou, Trinity, Tehama, Modoc counties. And there are some pretty large swaths of territory that are designated across this area. So once we saw this map, we knew that we wanted to do whatever we could to make sure that this doesn't just happen to us, that we come up to speed quickly and can anticipate things about this opportunity zone process. Right now, if you look at the conversation nationally and also at the state level, there are some real questions about how this will play out in urban spaces versus rural spaces. I think of Reading as being kind of rural-ish. In most census tract analysis, the downtown Reading Opportunity Zone, for instance, does not fall under the rural. We're more of a metro designation for all of those types of analyses. But nevertheless, when you look at deal flow and the capital stack and business acumen for potential investments, it's unclear how it will play out in a place like Reading. And so we want to look for some of those signs. If any of you are interested in going into the nitty-gritty of what are opportunity zones, what is this investment, we're just going to cover it in one page here. But I really recommend EIG, the Economic Innovation Group, which is, their logo is on the lower left-hand side of the screen. The folks who are part of that organization really were in the early kind of upstream process for informing how this came into the policy arena and then into tax reform specifically, and how the regulatory framework is playing out going forward, including, there's the next hearing on this is coming up July 9th. So it's an ongoing conversation, but EIG is a pretty reliable source for where this has been and where it might be headed. So the big picture that they provide is that opportunity zones are really a series of incentives to unlock capital gains for investment into underserved communities across the country. So, picture an individual, for those of you financial planners on the call or CPAs, an individual who you might be recommending to entertain a 1031 exchange or some other mechanisms. It's those types of people who might be likely to consider this mechanism. And so individuals, also corporations who pay capital gains, they have the responsibility to pay those capital gains unless they use one of the tax incentives for seeking an alternative. And in this case, now there's a new alternative, which is to invest that into an opportunity fund. An opportunity fund then can invest in several different ways. So the first is in a business, and that takes the form of stock or equity investment in a qualified opportunity zone corporation. And here I'll just note there's a lot of conversation right now about what constitutes a business being located in a zone. I'm putting air quotes here for those of you who are just on audio. How much of the activity, the revenue generation, the employment, the inventory or stock needs to be located in a zone. All of that is getting worked out right now in terms of the regulatory framework. But stock in one of those corporations is the first way an opportunity fund can invest. They can also develop interest in a qualified opportunity zone partnership. And so both of those relate to primarily the business side of things. And then the third, and probably the focal point for most of the conversation about opportunity zones thus far, has been in this third category of tangible property that can be used in qualified opportunity zones. So think of this as your classic real estate investment. Maybe somebody wants to build a mixed-use development in a designated zone. This could be potentially one layer in that capital stack. So I want to be sure to underscore, from the best of my understanding, opportunity zones are not, the entire solution to anybody who's looking for capital. Is really as one layer of that capital stack. And at the end of the holding period, the person, the individual, or the corporation that invests upfront, they benefit from having a step up in basis and deferral on those capital gains, and they may not have to pay gains on the gains of their investment. So there's some benefit for them to consider, but what investors are also going to be looking for at the end of the day is that any of these three possibilities that are on the right-hand side of your screen, stock, interest in a partnership, or tangible property, they're going to be looking for a return on that investment. So this is one of the central questions I think a lot of people are asking right now. What's our role with opportunity zones? And just know that this is going to be one of the deciding factors as well. What would the return on investment actually be? So at the May 22nd event, we had many more discussions. We had an accountant who's from Novogradac, one of the firms that I would recommend for anybody who's seeking more in-depth professional advice about opportunity zones and opportunity funds. I recommend going to a resource that's skilled like that, like Novogradac is. And we're not here to ask or answer any specific tax questions, but what we are here to do is to have this follow-up conversation that we set up when we were together in May. We're really lucky to be joined by Ian Ross from OppSites, who is with us on the call, and you'll be hearing from him in just a moment. So he's the CEO and founder of OppSites, but his background is that he's a professional urbanist. He spent 16 years, probably 16 plus years, I should say by now, Ian, at the intersection of cities and towns, of design and policy, of the regulatory frameworks that relate to real estate, looking at big picture economics and community development. And he's partnered with a wide range of cities, 30 plus, probably more by now, across the country to really think systematically about what would be necessary from a policy perspective to revitalize cities and towns. And he also then has added to his background as a professional urbanist more of a technological component. So think of him as a professional urbanist meets techie, and together with his partners who are working on this platform of OppSites. And big picture, he's one of those people who's dedicated to transforming cities and communities for the better. We could probably have a whole other webinar imagining, Ian, about what constitutes for the better, because I know you've done a lot of thinking about that over the years. But for today, what we're really interested in hearing from Ian is a preview of this platform, OppSites, which is the official partner for the state of California in the process of creating some tools for this marketplace that's just beginning to emerge. We're in still the market creation phase of opportunity zones and funds. And so there are first movers who are developing platforms like the one that Ian has developed to try to help accelerate deal flow in specific communities in terms of both business investment and also real estate investment. And I think, just the last thing I'll say, Ian, and then I'll hand it over to you, is I really admire people who do this type of work in a space like Opportunity Zones, because there are lots of people who, have something that they're seeking as a benefit to themselves personally around, matching real estate investment with a project that they're trying to make pencil. There are lots of, interests that come to bear in this type of market creation phase. And we are so in need as a state in having connectors who are really looking at being central nodes in networks and trying to help facilitate a process for everybody else who's trying to find each other and to understand what this marketplace will come to be. So Ian, thank you for playing that role. And I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm hoping that you can share big picture, what is OppSites? And I know he'll probably mention this, but what he's going to take us through today is the range of just free and accessible tools that are part of the kind of baseline of OppSites. So what is it, and who's using it, and what are you starting to learn from how different people are using the site? And then even to get kind of in nuts and bolts for anybody I know several of you have reached out to me in advance of this conversation wanting to actually sign up and go through the process. And so Ian has graciously agreed to kind of take us through a step-by-step of that process for anybody who wants to start to get engaged today. So Ian, I'm going to click stop share in this, which will hopefully get me out of here. And it looks like hopefully you can then share what you've got. I'm just going to ask for a quick sound check for those of you who I can see. Can you wave if you can still hear us? Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Ian, take it away.
All right. Good morning. Maybe Rachel, can you wave back to me if you can hear me? Okay, great. Just always checking. So thanks so much. That was, I think, a really wonderful overview of opportunity zones. And I really appreciated how the McConnell Foundation has taken a role to present this as an opportunity unlike any other. It's not like those enterprise zones and the other sort of government programs that you are maybe familiar with in the past. I hadn't heard it presented quite like that. And I think it's just exactly the right way to discuss this. This is federal tax law, which means it applies to everybody who pays federal taxes. So individuals, corporations, and the way it works is anyone who has capital gains, be they an individual or corporation, and by the way, it can be any type of capital gain at all, not just real estate. You can sell your Amazon stock and participate in this. We are really at the earliest stages, guys, of what could potentially be a significant opportunity for the 31 million Americans who live and work and invest and own property or want to create businesses inside of these opportunity zones to really have access to a new source of capital. So at the end of the day, it happens to have that word zones attached to it, like, priority zones and enterprise zones, but really what it is law that only applies in certain geographies. And as Rachel mentioned, Reading happens to be just like ground zero in terms of the downtown plan and all of the efforts you've all been making to try to advance the community's long-term goals for Reading. This could be an opportunity to attract just another source of capital from the private sector into the sorts of businesses and real estate projects that you all maybe have had on your mind for some time. And this is just another opportunity to perhaps find financing for those projects. And of course, it's not only applicable to downtown Reading, as you'll see soon, but it is.
Oh, looks like maybe, Ian, you are frozen. Let me text Ian to make sure he can see.
Try to do that. Is that helpful?
There we go. You're back.
Great. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, I hope it froze on like a becoming sort of.
It's always a flattering picture.
Yeah, it's always a flattering. That's right. That's great. Yeah. So anyhow, for those of you who were not in not able to attend the 101, I patched in for just a few minutes. It was a really big room of folks. There were a lot of folks in attendance, 130, 150 folks. And that was a really good sort of primer on how the opportunity zone tax legislation works and how it can play out. The purpose of my participation today is to give you all really a very visual demonstration of how to use the website OppSites in a way to help you kind of get started and to establish your profile and take that first step to joining the community of people in California who are either interested in finding capital for new projects, or you might be interested in, maybe you're somebody with capital and you're thinking, hey, how do I find projects? Well, it works both ways as a marketplace, so we'll show you how to find projects. And we also added a component called a member network. So let's say you're a CPA and you're operating in and around Reading, or maybe you're an advisor of another type, or even if you're an architect or a phase one engineer. Our network was built to help you connect your services so that you can help with the pursuit and the success of projects, both in and out of opportunity zones in the areas that you're interested in. So what I'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, fingers crossed. And what I'm gonna do is just put a couple of quick slides up. All right, let me see if I can figure this out. Share screen, preview, share. Hopefully I've got a few slides up. Everybody see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yep.
So Rachel just made her remarks, and really what I'm gonna walk you through, as shown in number 2 here, are just a few simple steps, and I'm going to just go through it visually so you can watch. And of course, I believe this is being recorded, so hopefully, you don't have to write everything down. I'll move slowly, but I would say it's probably best to simply watch the demonstration, and then you can use the video as reference. But the first thing I'm going to show you is a little bit of an overview of the platform. And then I'm going to walk through the creation of a new profile, which is the first thing that you can all do. And I'm going to show you how you can create your own project opportunities. If you have a business or real estate opportunity that you want to put out there, I'll show you how to do that. Then I'm going to show you how you can discover opportunities if you're somebody looking for opportunities. We'll show you how to use the network so that you can promote your own services. and find other project partners. And then we're going to show you how you can join what we call place networks, which are online communities of the people and organizations who are focused on the communities that you're interested in, whether it's the communities where you live or work or invest or even pursue business. We'll show you how you can join the online communities, and that way you can always get notified of all of the activity that your fellow Northern California folks or even people around the country who are also interested in those communities are doing. So you'll get notifications from us letting you know of new opportunities, letting you know of new business opportunities, letting you know of people that checked out your profile, etc. So before I jump into the visual of the website, I'm just going to remind you that OppSites has a marketplace for projects and their business and real estate. It has a network where you can find people and organizations. It has those place networks, and I'll just show you the one for Reading today to give you a sense of how it works. And then the last thing I always like to remind everybody is that we hear about all of these exciting numbers, opportunity zones, trillions and trillions of dollars in investment. But again, because this is tax law and it's focused on making capital available for certain types of projects, we like to come at this from the place of that there are 31 million Americans who stand to benefit from this new capital source. And just to remind you of a few of those who are actually on the OppSites platform, this is Doug Stewart. He's in Oakland, and he's raising money for a new company, not a new real estate project, but a new company in Oakland. This is Julie Kim. She is raising substantial amounts of money both from institutional capital and from just local folks who have capital gains to share for an agricultural technology out in Fresno. This is Zale. Zale has a vertical farms technology that he invented. And he's trying to find cities and local institutions where they have 15,000 square feet of space where he can put one of these businesses, and then he can create new jobs in that 15,000 square feet and grow produce, right? Which is really cool. It's both a real estate project and it's a business opportunity all in one. Here's an example of how someone who runs a regional business development alliance in Wyoming, in Casper, Wyoming, is using our tool to promote 35 acres of basically vacant land along a river to try to find new investors for it. And this is a recent project that just landed on our platform last week. I think it's so cool. It's this gentleman, Juan Lacey, has figured out a business model for growing food using basically agricultural techniques, aquaponics as he refers to it. And his goal or his mission is to use land in and around the Pittsburgh area, but the more rural areas, to create food for the people who live inside of Allegheny County. So he's attracting capital to his opportunity zone business. And in doing so, he's trying to feed and optimize food in the county. And actually, he uploaded his own business plan to OppSites. By the way, I just love this guy because if you look on the left, this is real entrepreneurial thinking. It basically says, we're going to be broke for a really long time, and then we're going to kill it. So I love Juan's attitude. So as you can see, this is Megan. She runs an area chamber of commerce, and she's using our tool, the platform, to promote privately owned real estate on behalf of the property owners to try to attract opportunity zone businesses and opportunity zone capital to rehab those buildings. So you can see this isn't sort of it's not limited to your broker selling of a space. This is a whole new way of thinking about investing in communities with a community of business and property owners, local leaders, chambers of commerce, city leaders, institutional capital partners, service providers like CPAs and accountants, everybody working together to advance the projects that support our communities. What I'd like to do is just go ahead, and I'm going to go to the actual website now. I'm going to do my best to get there. Hang on one second.
It's like Murphy's Law, right, Ann? Since it worked smoothly during our test run.
Yeah, this is when we go sideways. That's right. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go to OppSites.com.
Yeah, I see it.
Great. Okay. I think what I might do is hide my own image. Are you guys able to see my face currently?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I might hide that. That way, I've just learned that if the fewer distractions, the better. So I'm going to hide. And what I'm going to do now is just have you focus on the screen. So this is OppSites.com. It's live. This is exactly as you're going to see it when you guys go to the website. And what it can, you'll see it says, let's make cities together, right? And that really is the highest level mission of the platform. And the reason we partnered with the state of California to host this Opportunity Zones network and marketplace is to give you the ability to participate in both the marketplace and the network, right? So it's really about connecting people with projects in all of the places that you're focused on. And I'd like to just show you how it works. So I think sometimes I start with how to create a profile. I think it might make sense for me to start first with how the marketplace and the network work. And then at the end, so that you really remember it, I'm going to show everybody as a last step how to create your profile. And I think you might find that, like, sort of just so you retain it, most valuable. So switching screens, here is the marketplace. And as you can see, what I did is I clicked on the blue word that says projects. You can see there's a navigation toolbar and then what we call a sub-nav, and there are 4 primary buttons. There's projects and members and places. And then there is a forum. And the forum is a place for you to ask questions and answers and connect with other folks. But first, I'm going to start with the projects. So in the marketplace, you're going to find both business and real estate projects that are being showcased by folks just like yourselves, right? The people who put these projects on this platform are exactly the same folks who are on this webinar today. You're not any different than the people who put these projects up. This is a community-sourced marketplace for folks who have project ideas, whether they're business opportunities or real estate opportunities, to put them out there. You don't need to be a certified user or a professional investor. This is a community marketplace for community development and economic development. So if I'm using this marketplace, as you can see, I can zoom in and I can find project opportunities. And the ones that are in opportunity zones have this orange circle that says OZ. And if I were interested in finding specific opportunities, let's say I'm an investor, I can sort this marketplace by stating what I want to find, whether it's a development opportunity, a business opportunity, investment opportunity, or even find available space. I can also filter that marketplace by the locations that I'm interested in. So if I were to start typing a name, Redding, as you'll see, it'll make suggestions, Redding, California, and you can select the specific places you're interested in. And because we come from community development and economic development, the types of projects that we enable you to sort by are the ones that you're probably familiar with if you've done economic development and city development in the past. And you can see we focus on downtown revitalization, brownfields and greenfields, plans and policies, even infrastructure and energy, all of which are very popular to opportunity zone investors. We also allow you to filter that marketplace by the types of products that you're searching for. And of course, the other side of that is if you're creating an opportunity, these are the types of tags you'll use to identify that opportunity for folks searching for it. And one of the cool parts of our platform is, again, because it's all about the people, if you're searching for projects, you can identify the type of person that you want to, if you're only interested in finding projects from certain types of folks, you can sort by them here as well. And to give you a quick sense of how the marketplace looks, sorry for the jumbling around there. So here's the most recent opportunity that was put up there. It was put up by Andrew Myrick, who is the economic development manager in the city of Salinas. And if I click on it, I'll get the details. And it looks like Andrew is searching for, this is an RFQ. So this is a city-sponsored opportunity. And they are searching for developers and investors and financiers for projects in Salinas. That's pretty cool. And if I were interested in speaking with Andrew about this, I can simply message Andrew directly. So just like if you use LinkedIn and send messages, or Facebook and send messages, any of those internet tools, you can use OppSites to also communicate with people on the network. Here's an example that I showed you in the slideshow of Juan Lacey's project. And if I click on Juan, I'm going to go to Juan's profile. So just like with LinkedIn and Facebook, you're going to have a profile on OppSites. And your profile, just like Juan's, will enable you to describe yourself, describe your business, and it will show your project opportunities. And it will allow people to do two really cool things. One, they can message you. So if I wanted to send a note to Juan, I click the message button, and now I can simply write Juan a message like, hey, Juan, interested in learning more about this investment opportunity for your aquaponics company. Another thing that people can do is join each other's networks. Just like if you use LinkedIn and join networks of the folks that you are interested in connecting with professionally, you can, I'm going to click join my network. I'm going to join Juan's network. What that means is every time Juan puts in another opportunity or changes this one, I'm going to get notified. Now, if you turn that around and think of it for yourself, if you have a profile on OppSites, you can be followed by members of the business, real estate, and finance communities who you then notify about your project opportunities just by placing them on OppSites. You don't have to think about who to notify. We'll tell everybody for you. I'm now going to click the members button to show you how the network works and how you can use it to promote your own services. The member network shows the people and the organizations currently utilizing OppSites. Now imagine I found a project in Reading and I were trying to find a local real estate professional to work with or a local CPA to work with. I can enter a place that I'm interested in. I'll limit my search to California and I'll say, hey, I'm looking for somebody with expertise in marketing, in public affairs, in finance, in brokerage, in real estate development, right? And when I do that, this allows me to find local experts in your community or to find you, if that applies to you, and start to build new connections and start to find people who I might be able to connect with to pursue opportunities in the places that I'm interested in. So this is an opportunity for you to promote your services, raise your hand and say, hey, I'm in Reading and I can offer architectural services, right? And of course, if I were interested in connecting with anybody I find on the network, just like I showed you earlier, I can go to their profile. I can find out what their expertise is. I can see if they are offering any projects at the moment. I can find out what they're looking for, and I can connect with them. Now, this is the last thing I'd like to show you before I show you how to create your own profile. And this will really get into the meat of how to work inside of Reading and the other areas you're interested in. These are what we call the place networks. It's that third blue button at the top, places. And if I were interested in finding the community for Reading, just as an example, I'm going to start at the very top, typing the word Reading into the search field. And you can see it's asking me, am I interested in Reading, California? And I say, yep, that's the one. And I click that blue magnifying glass, which is our search button. And when I do that, OppSites is going to say, okay, we have a Reading, California place network. And I'm going to click on that button. And what it's going to do is bring me to my group. It's going to bring me to my local network. And here it is. I'm just going to give it a moment to load on your computers and on mine. And what you'll see that's interesting. Okay, perfect. There we go. Now, are you guys all able to see the Reading map in front of you at this time?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the zones, the designated zones just popped up in green now.
Perfect. So this is a map of Reading, California, and the green outline is the opportunity zone that Rachel was referring to earlier, right? This is, you can go right to what we call the Reading Place Network. And when you do, you're going to find where the opportunity zones are. And you can continue to zoom in, as I'm doing now, and start to see the specific properties that are inside that zone. In fact, it works just like Google Maps. So I can click on the satellite and go in deeper and deeper and deeper into downtown Reading, just as an example, until I find the specific properties that I'm interested in. And let's say I'm an owner, or I'm just interested in knowing more about one of these properties. And I'm going to select this one right here on Eureka Way. And again, I don't know Reading at all, just full disclaimer. And I don't know if anybody has any interest in this property, or I'm just using this purely as an example. This is not anything I know anything about. So here's one at the corner of Center and Eureka. And if I click on that property, what you'll see is OppSites asks me if I'm ready to create a project at 1540 Division Street, or if I'm just curious about the parcel data. So I can click on the parcel data. And as you can see, I now am learning all about the parcel data for that parcel. So you can click on any parcel on OppSites and find out the following information. You can find out the owner, it's James Mitchell and Angelia et al. I see that it is in an opportunity zone. I see that the county's Shasta. I see the population. I see the poverty rate. I see the median family income. You can do that for any property in the state of California. All right. Now that I have this information, I can do a couple of other cool things. One is I can actually turn this into a project opportunity. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to show you the other information that's available to you on this, what we call place network. And that is, you can think of this like your hub for connecting with the people who are focusing on Reading. And as you can see, there are updates, just like you get in a feed from LinkedIn or Twitter, and you can start to see all of the updates from the people, just like yourselves, who are interested in this area. So for example, here's Nicole. She's an assistant planner. We can connect with Nicole. Here is somebody from Atlas Hospitality Group who said they are a direct lender specializing in hospitality investments. So as you can see, you can start to connect with people based on who they are, what their expertise is, and even what they're looking for. Here's somebody looking for a tax advisor to help them set up a qualified opportunity fund. And they're actually interested in Reading. So you can see it's both projects as well as business opportunities, all focused on Reading. Here's somebody looking for industrial land. You get the idea. And you can post yourself right into the discussion. Maybe you're looking for capital for a new project in downtown Reading. So you can post right into this feed and inform the community of what you're looking for. But now what I want to do, because I think it'll be probably more interesting to many of you who are on this call, is show you how to create an opportunity. How can you promote your opportunities to the entire network of investors and developers and service providers who are seeking real estate and business opportunities throughout California? Well, right here, from this Reading page, you can zoom in on the property that you're aware of. And I'm going to do that right now. Sorry, I just got to adjust my screen because I want to make it really clear for you all how this works. I'm going to zoom in, and let's say I were focused at the corner of Market and Eureka. I click on the property, and as you'll see at 1400 Eureka Way, there's a button for me to create project. And I'm going to click that orange button that says create project. And when I do, OppSites offers me a very simple tool that just pops up on my screen where I can describe the opportunity that I want to share with everyone else. So maybe there's a business opportunity that I want everybody to know about. I give that opportunity a name. OppSites has already identified the address based on where I clicked. I need to confirm that address by typing the name of the city. And then I create a description. Here is my test description. This is where you describe whether it's a real estate opportunity or a business opportunity, the project that you want to promote on the California Opportunity Zones marketplace. Scrolling down, I can now click on and identify any of the project types that I think are applicable to this. I can also identify if it's a real estate project, what types of products I think make sense on this site. And then I can upload, if you have a business prospectus or additional files, I can click attachments and I can upload documents and I can save and just click add at the bottom. And when I click add, my project goes live on the OppSites network. So in order to create a project, I can simply click on the map on the property that I want people to know about and click add project opportunity. And then just like all of these orange dots on the map, your project will also appear on the map. Here's one, 12 generally industrial zone parcels in South Reading being sold together. So just like this project appears on the map, so too will your project appear not only on this map, but because of our partnership with the state of California, your project will get sent out automatically to thousands and thousands of investors and developers who are part of the California network. Now, what I'd like to do before, I'm sure there's a bunch of questions, but what I'd like to do is show you how to create a profile. so that everybody on this webinar can go and create a profile for themselves as part of this effort, as part of this call. As soon as we get off, it's a really, really simple tool to create a new profile. And I'm going to do my best now to show you exactly how to do that. Now, Rachel, can I get a confirmation from you about the screen that you can see? Is it the black OppSites screen?
Yep, and it says, let's make cities together.
Great. Now, folks, when you go to OppSites.com, this is the screen you'll be presented with. And the easiest way to start to participate in this conversation about investment in the areas you're interested in is to create a profile. So I'm going to go ahead and create a profile so that you can see exactly how to do it. And the first step is in the upper right, you're going to see 3 buttons: About, Login, Join. And I'm going to click that Join button in the upper right. And when I do that, OppSites is going to say, okay, are you ready to join the network? And I say, yep. And I'm going to click, I'm going to use the email option at the bottom. But if you have a LinkedIn profile already, you can click Join with LinkedIn. And when you do that, all you're going to do is, OppSites is going to basically make a little connection to your LinkedIn profile. And then it's going to go ahead and connect and create a profile for you based on your LinkedIn profile. So it'll have your name, and it'll have your title, and if you put a few sentences in your About section on LinkedIn, we'll go ahead and grab all that just to save you time. But I'm going to go ahead just to walk you through the process of how to join with the email. So I'm going to click the orange button at the bottom that says Join with Email. And what shows up is a form. And I'm going to go ahead and just simply fill it out. And I'm going to say that my first name is Elvis. My last name is Presley. I'm going to enter an email address for Elvis, which will be elvis123@gmail.com. I'll create a password for Elvis, which I'm sure we could all guess is Graceland. Right, obviously. There's Elvis's password confirmed, and I'm going to add a photo. So I click on the left, add a profile photo. Now you might think, oh, I don't want to put my photo. We know in the data that people with photos are immediately perceived as having more credibility. People won't click to connect with you if you don't have a photo. Well, it's not that they won't, but it's just far less likely. So I'm going to click Add a Profile Photo. I go to my desktop. I select the photo that I like. I add it. And I'm going to click Continue. And then OppSites is going to ask you a couple of simple questions just to help you get started. So it's also important to remember, you could be many, many things, right? So let's say I happen to be a local leader. So I'm going to click on local leader. Let's say I happen to be a property owner. I can click on property owner. Let's say I'm a real estate professional. Well, maybe I'm an investor. So I click investor. So I'm both a property owner and an investor. Maybe I'm a service provider. I'm a property owner, I'm an investor, and I'm also a builder. This is all about who we are and how we make cities together. And then I'm going to click Continue. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in investing in opportunity zones, check it out. In the lower right, there you get your own little club as Opportunity Zone Investor, and you can click that too. And then I'm going to click Continue. And the last step in creating your profile is to join any organization that's currently on OppSites or create a new one if you work for a company that's not currently on OppSites or an organization. And you can just start typing the name. So I work currently with OppSites. You'll see it'll recommend, is this what you meant? Is that what you meant? by the way, you don't have to do this. You can do this later. So I'll just click continue. And then it says, okay, last step. Is there any particular city that you're ready to join now and join that community? And I'm going to say, you bet. I would like to be part of the Reading, California network. And by the way, you can join as many networks as you like, and you can do it at any time. You don't have to do it as part of this. And then I'm going to click sign up. And there I've done a new profile for Elvis. Here's Elvis's profile. Just took a minute or two. And now the power of this profile, I know only like 2 or 3 more minutes. I just realized that, is that I can now share my opportunities. So if I'm Elvis and I go to my project opportunities and I want to add one, remember in the last session, we did that by going to the Reading community. I can do it right from my profile and I can add an opportunity and I can share that with the network. So with that, I realize we're a little low on time. And I apologize for that. I just wanted to make sure we got through everything. And I wanted to turn it back over to Rachel and also to see if there's any questions that I can help with.
So thank you, Ian. I will start with, we have 2 questions in the chat. Anyone else who's interested in asking a question in the last few minutes we have remaining, go to the bar that's in the the bottom middle of your screen. There's a box marked chat with like a little ... So that's an option if you want to type one in. Or if you're very brave, you can unmute yourself. And to do that, it's in the lower left. That's where the mute is. But we'll start with this one by Patricia Lord. Thank you, Patricia, for putting this in the chat. Who says, I recently read an opinion piece in Sacramento Bee about potential changes to Opportunity Zone project possibilities in the state of California. Does anyone know more about the proposed changes? Am I understanding correctly that if the proposed changes go into effect, Opportunity Fund investments will not be able to be used to invest in small businesses as in other communities? And I'll take a crack at this one, and Ian, anything else you want to add? So Patricia, I think that piece to which you're referring is really focused on the state conformance strategy. So there's federal tax reform, and then there's state, every state right now is debating, should we go whole cloth in tune with state tax reform to try to further incentivize and catalyze activity? Do we want to be more narrow than that and say we only want to see it in particular areas? So regardless of what states do, investors could still receive the federal tax benefit, especially if they get in soon, they could receive the full complement of tax benefits. And even if they get in 5 years from now, they could still experience some of the benefit over the course of the 10-year holding period. But for this one, it's really focused on the state tax conformance, which is focused on affordable housing and green technology. So those are the 2 areas that the state of California has defined, which means that you could still do business investment, but it wouldn't be a recipient of the state tax benefit. It would still be a recipient of the federal tax benefit. Anything you would add on that one? Ian?
Hey, I think that's exactly right. You know, and full candor, I haven't read that article yet, but there are people on both sides of this. One thing we haven't discussed, and I think it may have come up in your OZ 101 session, was, you know, what are the risks of this program? And some of the risks of this program are that this is basically creating a new fire hose of capital into underserved areas and underserved census tracts, which are low-income census tracts. And what I mean by underserved, a lot of these areas, now downtown Reading may not actually be as, let's just say, underserved in terms of capital as other areas, but a lot of the areas that are designated opportunity zones have not been on the radar of institutional capital ever, right, almost in their history. And part of the concerns, let's say, that are being voiced are, well, aren't we just creating this unfettered capital influx into areas, and could that result in some displacement? And and there's an ongoing debate in many state houses and about that very issue. And I think what the Newsom administration is trying to do is to mitigate that risk to some degree. Remember, it's this federal tax law and it's private sector actions that will follow this tax law for the most part. So one of the tools, right, that our elected officials have is how easy or difficult can we make it to make these sorts of investments in our state? And one of the ways that the Newsom administration is trying to help is to say, look, we know the federal tax laws are going to create this incentive and there's going to be investment. We can control whether or not our state tax laws give all those same incentives to capital without any guardrails. Or we can try to create our own guardrails. And the guardrails that the Newsom administration is currently considering is to streamline and that type of those investments into certain types of projects and not every type of project. And that's a little bit, I believe, of what that article is probably addressing. So green tech, as Rachel mentioned, affordable housing, obviously one of our state's greatest concerns, affordable housing. So the Newsom administration wants to say, look, if you're ready to build affordable housing, we're ready to be in compliance. So they're just trying to figure out a way to protect California neighborhoods while attracting investment.
Here's another question. Are the current zones static, or can opportunity zones in other areas of the county be added?
There's the most popular question there has ever been. It's always the first question. And the answer is that these zones were approved at the Department of Treasury. The federal government approved these zones through a process where every governor, in this case it was Jerry Brown's office, identified a certain number, I think it was 25% of the low-income census tracts in the state, proposed them to the Treasury. Then they were either approved or modified, and then Congress approved this tax law, and the tax law applies to certain geographies. So short answer, they're not changing anytime soon. It would take an act of Congress to make these changes.
Yeah, thank you. And I know we may have some folks who have to drop off. There are a couple more questions here still in the chat. So if you do need to drop off, just to note that we have recorded this webinar and we'll circulate it via email and also a McConnell Foundation Community Vitality blog post for anybody who wants to tune in afterwards, or if there's someone you know that you think would be interested with whom you'd like to share it. Let me ask Ian, are you able to stay on for another minute or two, or do you need to dash?
No, I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes if there are additional questions. Okay. And you know, there's also, just for what it's worth, on OppSites, there's a little button in the lower right. If you have questions that arise during your creation of your profile, you can just use that. It's sort of a chat window, and someone will get back to you very shortly.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so we had a couple more questions. Jan asks, with reference specifically to the white icon on the map, can you describe what a project example might be? And this was, she said, then with reference to the white icon on the map. Jan, I don't know if you are able to unmute yourself if you need to, if you want to say a couple more words. I'm unmuting you. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, this is Ian. I'm happy to, I mean, project examples, I'm happy to explain them. And maybe this will help address Jan's question. So when we built this platform, we spoke to a lot of folks, a lot of folks. We're working in 850 cities currently. Or not we are working, but the platform is live in 850 cities. And because we enable people to connect with each other, in a lot of cases you don't know who the person is that you're considering connecting with, we built the platform. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. Well, I think I can just explain it. To allow people to describe who they are. And one of the ways that, especially if you think about architects or other folks or developers, if you're considering connecting with somebody like that, you might want to see what they've done in the past. So the project example tool is like a portfolio showcase. And if you've done projects before, maybe you've done a real estate investment, maybe you've built a business, maybe you're an architect and you've designed something cool, you can go to your profile, click project examples, add a new example, and then everybody who checks out your profile will be able to see it. You can think of it like a portfolio of work that's there for you to add credibility to your profile. And you can describe the outcomes, what your role was, et cetera, et cetera. So this is, it's an ability for people. I know, a lot of folks use their own websites and say, "Oh, check out my website." That's fine. You can do that too. But we just are giving you sort of a handy tool to go ahead and upload images and provide a description of some stuff you've done in the past.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We have a question from Mercedes who asks, and this one I'll just say, I'll read it, and then Ian, feel free to tell us if this is one of those good to ask a tax person about it questions. She asked, does servicing businesses in opportunity zones as a personal business without having property in an opportunity zone still count towards this type of investment? For example, starting an online business that offers services to an already existing business in an opportunity zone. So there's our question. Do we want to suggest it's good to consult with tax professionals?
Yeah, you should. There are actually specific, as you can imagine, because it's tax law, there are specific rules, or what they call guidance, from the Treasury Department about what constitutes an opportunity zone business and what does not. And some of that has to do with where you're located. You got that right. You got to be in an opportunity zone. But then there's all of this other language around, well, what if I'm located there, but my income, my revenue comes from people not in that zone? Or what if I'm there, but I have delivery trucks and they deliver food or bicycles into areas that are not in the opportunity zone? So what I would recommend is to look closely at the FAQ. It looks like somebody just posted that. I guess Rachel just posted the FAQ. And there's a second release of regulations. And on OppSites, if you go to the forum, there's a discussion called the second release of regulations, I believe. And we've uploaded a file there, which is a PowerPoint file. I think we've got the EIG file. We also have a really good one, which is done by a law firm called Polsinelli. And they put out their guidance on that, and you can download all of those from OppSites in the forum too. So the short answer is, as Rachel said, really talk to an expert. But there is acknowledgement in the guidelines that businesses that are located in OZs don't necessarily have to generate all of their revenue from within that OZ. I think it's a percentage requirement, actually.
So I just put those two links so to kind of give you some trailheads, Mercedes, for your question direct from the IRS. And I'm aware there are a couple of tax consultants on this call. So any of you who might want to respond or engage, feel free to. I think with that, because we still have about 19 people on, and I just want to do one last call for questions. If anyone else wants to type one in, I'll just give you a moment to do that here. And while you may be doing that, I just want to reiterate that we will circulate the recording of this webinar after. I'm impressed, honestly, Ian. I haven't looked at the OppSites platform for Reading in a while, and it's interesting to see the activity and the people who are on there already. Some projects that are popping up, and some people who are developing clarity about what they'd like to get out of engaging with people. So it's really kind of exciting to see that initial activity.
Some of those just I think that's true. I think we're just starting to see a lot more activity, especially in that area. Some of those searches that might appear in the Reading network may also be searches that people said, anywhere in California, this is what I'm looking for. And in some cases, they may have said, I'm only interested in Reading. So take a good look when you do find information that you're interested in. Sometimes, and just like you might say, hey, I have a project in Reading, or hey, I'm looking for a project anywhere in California. So just take a good look at that.
Yeah, thank you. So I see Ian entered in another the tranche of guidance.
So that's the downloadable document. In fact, I sort of did an end run around our own platform, but if you went to the OppSites forum, there would be a link to this. I just wanted to provide it quickly. This is, there's a group called Polsinelli. They're a law firm. And this is their summary of what I think it will answer some of Mercedes' questions around how businesses need to be in conformance.
Thank you. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today, and particularly Ian. I know you're just like jet setting everywhere, so and you just look the part with your backdrop of your, you know, like wireframe or whatever's going on. So thank you for spending time with 850 plus cities that are on the OppSites network. We appreciate your spending time with Reading and with some others from across the North State who have joined us for.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. We're thrilled to be working with the state of California, and we're based in Oakland. I don't know if you all know that, but I've been in Oakland for 20 years. So anything we can do to help California.
Thank you. All right, thanks all. We're going to end the recording here and look for it via email after.
Thank you, Rachel, and all the folks at the McConnell Foundation.